This is the
Right?
first time you and I have ever spoken face to face. We spoke a
Yeah.
lot on the phone
Yeah.
and by email. We went back and forth, but you and I
Yeah.
have never actually spoken face to face. So it's good to meet you, man.
No, it's good to really meet you too. Yeah, it's awesome. Cool. This
We're
is
getting
awesome, man. Thanks
questions
for having
already,
me
by the.
by too.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. By the way, we're already getting questions. Sue Cheesy just asked, when was the wedding?
Ooh, nice. Thanks, Ucheta. Yeah. No pressure, right? We'll see.
Yeah. Already putting you on the spot, man.
I know,
With
right?
the with the hard questions. It's just like
Oh my
turning into
goodness.
60 minutes
I'm not sure
interview
if I should have
already.
done this. I don't know if I'm ready for this right here.
I know. Already getting cornered. All right, reset,
Yeah.
reset.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, man, thanks for joining me. So for anyone who's just joining, so UPCODE, which is the account you're on right now, UPCODE series, is a comedy series about a brilliant doctor who's facing off against an evil insurance company and has to decide whether he's going to commit medical fraud to save his practice. And it is a comedy and it's a satire, but obviously it's making some pretty strong statements about the healthcare system.
Yeah.
And so I, as the creator of the show, put forth a challenge to Miguel to come up with a score. We needed a score for the show in order to kind of capture the spirit of the show. And actually, before we go there, I might just tell the story of how you and I connected, because I think that's kind of a funny connection.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
yeah, because as I was starting to go through this process of trying to figure out how to score the show, and it's a real challenge. I mean, for creators out there, I mean, and we all know, you of course know already, Miguel, but a lot of people, music is so important to anything you're making on screen,
Hmm.
right? Music can really just make or break in a lot of ways a
Hmm.
project. And so I was really struggling with where to go and who to turn to. And I talked to, a number of people. And my wife, who happens to run a nonprofit organization, mentioned, I met somebody on the West Coast when I was giving a speech. And this guy who's really nice, and he came up to me and he mentioned he's a composer. And I was like, what? This is okay, fine, so great. You met a composer, big deal. I need I need Hans Zimmer, man. I need I need John Williams. And she's
Right.
like, just try him out. He seems like a really, really good guy. Just talk to him. And so I did. But I'm just curious how you're the other side of that from your perspective. Is that right? You had met my wife, right? At a talk she gave.
Right, right. She was at it was like hosted at Google, but it was some kind of like advancement for like really Filipino communities to like
Yeah.
uh uh move forward in the workplace or pursue their passions. And Ayesha really stuck out. And I see uh some similarities between her and Megan as well, of just like people that are so just genuine and caring and like put other people first and like really like one thing she kept saying was like she wants to champion others. And I was like, I never really heard that phrase before, but I
Mhm.
loved it. And she's like seemed to like really care for people. So we kind of got like we were like divided into groups of like whose birthday it was. And I guess her birthday is like in March too, like pretty close to mine.
Mhm.
So we ended up kind of meeting each other and talking, and like um the the uh the like exercise that we were doing was kind of like telling people like what your life could be like or what your life would be like, instead of saying like what you do. Oh, this is I do this, or I'm a salesman, or I'm a server or whatever. Like it's like no, tell them how you do what you do, why you do what you do it. Like imagine your life doing exactly what you love, waking up every day with like fresh sheets, and you just love like the warmth of your bed, and you get up and you do exactly what you love. And like it was kind of the first time doing that exercise. And I don't know, I guess like because of that, like we just kind of like hit it off, I
Mhm.
guess. And
Yeah.
yeah, we just had a good conversation. And yeah, no, no. She was like, "Let me get your number. I'm like working on some stuff for ARK, for Advanced for Rural Kids."
Yeah.
And I thought really I was going to be working with her on some music,
Right.
but eventually she was just like, "Oh, I actually know somebody. I know it was you, her husband, who I talked to after." But it was yeah, it was awesome. It was kind of like surreal and just kind of serendipitous. So
Yeah, totally,
yeah,
totally.
yeah,
And what was funny is, she said, you just talk to him, just see if it makes sense. And I saw,
hmm,
you and I chatted, um, and we said, all right, let's just give it a try. Because I remember one
Yeah.
thing that she said about you, similar to how you're describing her, is
Hmm.
just how genuine you were, right?
Mm.
And that authenticity, that kind of genuine spirit
Yeah.
shines through, and I think it comes through in your music too.
Thanks, man.
Um, and so anyway, yeah, we said, and I think it was Drue and I and Drue's partner Ted.
Hmm.
Drue Pennella is the director, um, and Ted Harrod, who's a kind of co-producer.
Hmm.
And we described the show, and I think we sent you a really, really rough early cut. It was probably terrible, not well edited. But we were trying to just give you a sense of the tone of
Oh
the
man,
show. And I remember sending it to you and being like, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of really tough to even understand the tone of the show,
for
let
sure.
alone, convey it and have somebody get it. And there you are, you're on the West Coast. We're on, you're in LA, we're in New York, we've never met each other. We're just like kind of
Right,
taking a chance. And
dude.
so
Yeah.
what I would love to hear from you is what is the process of
Hmm.
scoring, right? You get, let's say, a project, maybe you have, some material, maybe you have a cut or a rough cut or a rough edit of something. How do you go about
Hmm.
coming up with a score?
Sure. Okay. Honestly, I don't think there's like a real, and I know I wish like I feel like a lot of people, and I used to think this too, like this is the process to make
Mm-hmm.
music like this or film like this. I just don't think it really works that way. Like I think inspiration hits you at like so many different times, and really you just kind of got to be open to what hits you. So, for example, you know, one I'm like looking. So I was in like courses. Trying to learn how to do this and do it professionally and well enough so that when I send people music, it's like, okay, it's not like a garage recording or anything like that. It's like
Right.
something that could be used in film and TV and people could actually take it seriously. So, um, for me, like when you sent me something and I'm looking at it, I'll just kind of like, or watching the scene, I'll just watch the scene and try and get really the beat and the feel, like what's that emotion at the end of the day that is supposed to come from this. And also you already had an idea too, which is awesome. Like this is like with references. So for that running scene where it was like the serene new age type of thing, it was like, oh, we really want this song, but it's just like we can't afford this song or whatever. It's just inaccessible to us or whatever it is. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, perfect. Okay, so I have this reference that I can go by.
Right.
And then from there, it's now like, okay, how do I make this my own and make it
Right.
so that Jerry and the other producers get the same emotion from my song, but
Mm-hmm.
not completely ripping off this song,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Right.
Um, so a lot of times what happens is I'll watch the scene, kind of get the idea, and then I'll like listen to the song 4 times. And this is actually something that I learned through a networking like uh, kind of learning platform called Sync Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's by Jesse Josephson, and he's like an awesome dude. He works so hard to become like a music licensed professional, has like thousands and thousands of placements, makes a living off of this. But on his platform, Sync Academy, it's not just like a learning. There's a bunch of like tutorials and stuff, but they also have a network. And so one of the things that he kind of taught us in that community was take time to listen to the reference track like 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And, each time, like the first time, just listen to it. Don't even, close your eyes. Don't even write anything down. Just like listen to it. And then the next time you kind of break it apart and basically like, what are the instruments? What's the sound quality? What's the structure of this? What's the emotion that you're trying to get? And you're trying to pull those things. So then when you go in front of your like little studio setup, and you're about to write, you kind of have this blueprint now of like, here are
Mm-hmm.
the instruments that this reference track used. I'm trying to kind of match it. And you can like interchange things out, but ultimately what you're trying to do is like get that same feel. So that's kind of when that process begins. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, in terms of like really trying to figure out songs, there is a lot of like, you got to kind of step away to let like the inspiration hit you, or to let like something kind of come to your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah. So there's a lot of parallels for me. I'm
Hmm.
hearing what you're saying about, 'cause in writing the show, there are definitely times you're trying to crack a scene, you're trying to make a scene work, and you
Right.
just have to step away. You just need to take a break and allow yourself let inspiration come and wash over you. So it's
Right.
very interesting that there's that parallel. You got to have your off days. You got to be
Hmm.
kind of taking care of yourself, and
Yeah.
knowing how and when inspiration hits you. Sometimes it's on a run,
Right.
right? Sometimes it's in the shower. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
you
actually
kind of
for
never
that
know.
theme, for the theme song, I sent you two like different songs, right? And so there
Right.
was one that was like more happy and uplifting, and then there
Hmm.
is the other one, which is the one that we used with the ukulele. And you actually said, "Oh, I'm thinking of something like using with a ukulele, but I don't really play the ukulele." I knew Megan had a ukulele, and I was like, "All right, let me try something with like guitar or maybe piano, or like see if there's something else that he might like." But that the reference for that and the inspiration for that, I was actually like on a call center hold thing, and
Hmm.
there was like this background music, and it was just like very happy. And I know that the tone of Upcode is like there was kind of some dark elements, right? It's kind of hidden
Hmm.
under the
Yeah.
layer of funny, like out of the box comedy type of thing, but there's also kind of like some dark tones there that's like, whoa, this is kind of serious.
Yes.
And so I like like I love irony and I love things that are kind of dark like that. So I thought like the idea of like having something kind of like bright and happy and uplifting as the theme might work. But then honestly, that like that first like doo 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 doo,
Hmm.
that just kind of came to me all of a sudden. Like that was no reference or anything. And then I was like, you know what? Let me go with this. I think in the middle, she let me borrow her Megan let me borrow her ukulele. So I think in the middle of writing that like happy uplifting song, I like was just messing around with the ukulele and I heard that and I was like, oh shoot. And then I like kind of closed down. I don't you yeah, I closed down the like audio like workstation that I'm working on, opened up a brand new one, and then just started recording that just to have it. So I
Hmm.
remembered it and like started writing the chords down. And then I kind of put that away for a little bit and then finished that first one so I could stay focused. And then like a couple of days later worked on that second one. And I think I sent them to you at the same time. I don't know. Maybe I
Yes.
sent them to you. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You did. Yep.
yeah, that way you could have some like options and figure it out. But
No, you're right.
yeah,
Because the show it's kind of complicated. We're kind of
yeah,
using some, kind of silly humor, but underneath we're taking a hard swing at,
mm-hmm,
some tough issues. We're dealing with
yeah,
unfairness in the healthcare,
oh yeah,
system. We're dealing with, power and dynamics and
mm-hmm,
people's livelihoods, and and patients getting screwed over. There's some,
yeah,
just like you said, there's some dark stuff where we're we're trying to shine a light on,
yeah,
through comedy, but it's those two layers are absolutely there. So it's interesting how you were able to clue into that, number
mm-hmm,
one, and then try and mirror it with music. That is a high art, my friend.
yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. And I think like for me, when I started off, it was very much like, and all my friends know this too. That it was like I want to be the artist or I want to be the producer. I want to be like, kind of chasing like fame and glory and stuff like that. And I think when I started doing this kind of work, it's funny how like that's when I really started getting like more work and more opportunities. When I really tried to like use my talents and skills to like help others or like um be kind of I don't know what the word is, but like to facilitate other people's productions, to be of value to others and create value for others with my own talents and skills. That's when I was like, oh, okay, this is like really a lot more fun. Like when I was just trying to be like this artist and get out there and gig and play shows, a lot of it was very like I don't know, it was like hard, and I wasn't sure if I was like in the right space a lot of time. Like I felt like I had to write music and express myself, but I just like would like hit writer's block all the time. And um, so that's actually I have a couple of questions for you because one, like I saw that David Belk, the doctor, is that his name?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yep.
that was crazy. I didn't know that it was like that in the hospital or insurance industry or anything like that. And I think for a lot of us, we probably just don't like think about it. It's just
Right.
kind of like this thing that we live with, the system that we live with. But this guy has his own private practice and is like not happy with it. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like, you're a doctor. Like, aren't all doctors supposed to be like, rich, happy, and just loving their life? It's like this dude's like struggling. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy cow. And his nurse, like, wife makes more money than him. And I'm like, wait,
Hmm.
nurses make more money than doctors? All these things that you don't know that
Right.
happen. And that's why I really love about Upcode too, is that, you're taking that kind of really dark, or like really serious topic, but trying to bring it to light in a way where it's like not so, you can kind of poke fun at it a little bit. I don't know if that's a right way to say it, but
Yeah, no, exactly. We're, because some of the issues have been touched on a little bit in drama, but I'd
hmm
never seen it addressed in comedy. And comedy's my passion. That's the thing I love to
yeah,
do more than anything. And
okay,
I was just inspired by, honestly, like, Jon Stewart and, John Oliver and, all these incredible comedians who are able
hmm
to mix satire with comedy,
yeah,
and making a statement with comedy
yeah,
and how powerful that is. And you're right. It's with the healthcare system, the more I learned about it, the more surprised I was about
yeah,
what's going on and how hard just like you, I always thought you're a doctor, you've got it made,
hmm
you're at the top of the pyramid.
yeah,
And the more I learned, the more doctors I spoke to,
yeah,
the more I learned. And just like the interview with Dr. Bell, which
hmm
if folks want to check that out, we posted it on YouTube. So if anyone wants to see a real life doctor who's struggling with the
yeah,
exact same issues that Dr. Fritz is struggling with, and how that conflict between the doctor and the insurance company, ultimately, it's not only is it putting pressure on the doctor, but it's screwing the
right,
patients over too, right? Really, the
right,
ones who are getting it, the pointy end of all this is all of us as
hmm
patients who, while the doctor's trying to upcode and push up, all the things they have to charge for to the insurance company. And then if the
yeah,
insurance company isn't covering it, well, that means the cost we have to come up with is that much higher. So we're all
hmm
kind of paying the price in the end.
yeah,
But yeah, so no, that's all those things were real, and we wanted to root it in that reality.
wow,
But make a statement, make a real statement
yeah,
about the absurdity of it all, but hopefully make it entertaining.
sure,
And hopefully with comedy, generally when people find something funny, they actually remember it more. They've
yeah,
done studies on this, and
oh
so
yeah,
it's a little subversive, but
hmm
but it's also I think the most fun. And yeah,
well, yeah,
but
no,
go
I
ahead.
mean,
Sorry.
if you can, sorry, like I was just gonna say that like Dave Chappelle or
Right.
Bill Burr or these guys that like take serious, like really serious topics and really just find a way to communicate them in a way that's like, oh, this is a very serious topic, but at the same time, like, people can laugh a little bit about it. I think it's really, at the end of the day, not like, it's more about like planting the seed, I guess, and
Right.
generating awareness, but at the same time, like, still having fun, in a
Right.
sense, like enjoying your craft and living out your passions and, being happy,
Right.
healthy, all that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So
Cool.
I will never forget the moment we opened those two files you sent,
hmm
and again, we were just, for us, we knew how important it was, but we were not experts in scoring anything. We were trying to give you as best guidance as we could, but we were kind of, probably fumbling, we're probably trying to, we were feeling around, just trying to figure out how to even convey this tone and this idea to you. And,
Yeah.
when we send this off to you and you work on it for a while, and then you send us these two links and we're like, all right, this is probably not going to work, but, well, it's probably in their iteration. Maybe we'll have to go back 4 and 5 times or something, to get even close to where we want to be. This is what our expectation was. We opened the first one, we're like, okay, all right, that's fine. It's a nice tune. It doesn't really quite capture it. We're kind of getting a little, discouraged. And then I'll never forget me and Ted, because Drue, I think, went to get lunch or something, and we pop it open, we listen to it. We're in their editing bay, right? So it's totally
Yeah.
dark, right?
Yeah.
And I think we had the thing running. We had the one of the cuts running on mute, and the theme just starts playing, and we just look at each other and we're like, that's it.
That's
We
awesome.
got our theme.
Wow.
And then and I'll never forget, Drue came back in, and we were like, listen to this. And he listened to it, and all three of us were just like, well, we got our theme. It was like
Nice.
the
Awesome.
best feeling. Yeah. So
Wow. Awesome. I love hearing that story. That's great.
you solved a huge problem for us.
Nice, man. I'm
Um,
glad.
yeah. Um, and so what's have you always been a musician? Where you kind of been
Mm,
passionate about music from the beginning, or?
yeah. Yeah, always. I mean, I don't, it's like I've always been in bands, you know what I mean? I've always like grown up. I was in like middle school band, high school band. I was in like garage bands. Both of my roommates here are musicians, phenomenal musicians as well. So,
What was your first instrument that you played?
oh shoot, um, probably probably my voice. Um,
Okay. Mm.
yeah, I would sing a lot. Um, I'm not as good as I used to be. I think when I was a kid, when I had a higher pitched voice, I kind of like hit puberty and just lost it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but every now and then I can still like, sing a tune here and there. But I just like I'll sing in the shower. I'll still sing in the shower, you know what I mean? I'll just sing everywhere. I won't even notice it, but I think that was like just my passion was like singing, playing music. I still play I'll play for church here and there. So
Mhm,
yeah, I'm always I think like you like finding your passion, with comedy and film.
mhm.
I just really found my passion with, music and
And then after the
writing.
voice, you said you were in bands. Did you play the
Hmm.
guitar, piano? What was your,
Yes. So one of my buddies, Daniel Plymell, he was always in a garage band, and he's in a band right now called The Broken Line, which is like phenomenal, like kind of like a punk rock band
mhm,
from Long Beach. I used to be their drummer, and he played guitar, and he like showed me like my first couple chords, showed me my first couple songs,
mhm.
and then as soon as that happened, and I had my own guitar, I was just kind of hooked. I would go on like I would just like sit at my my desk trying to learn songs a bunch like over and over again, and I ended up just like I don't know. I'm like I don't know if you can kind of tell. Like I'm kind of like scatterbrained sometimes, and when I have like a thought process, I'll just like my mind kind of runs like a train. So I'll go into all these different like little stations before I get back to my point.
Mhm.
But so you might have to stop me a couple of times. But
That's all right. I'm here for you. Keep you on
yeah, I
track. I'm your
appreciate
guardrail. I'm your guardrail,
it.
baby. Don't
Thank you.
worry.
Yeah. But in the same way, like I just, I'll get interested in the guitar and I'll play that and I'm like, okay, I love that. And then I'll see someone else play like amazing piano and I'm just like, how do they do that? And then so I'll like try and learn some piano. So, you know, even before I had a piano, I like drew out a piano on like pieces of paper like this just to practice like the fingering of it. And then when I got to a real piano, I like actually tried to play it and that worked. So if anyone wants to learn piano, you don't have a piano, like look up videos, try and learn the fingering and then take it to a piano and then you can like learn a little bit. And I'm not like an amazing pianist or anything, but I can get by, no chords. And,
Mhm.
from there, I joined band in middle school just because I wanted to be in the realm. And I remember this story too of being in band as a sixth grader. For my first time, I knew I wanted to play drums. That was like the time I wanted to play drums. I'd already been playing guitar, already like did my little dabbling. I was, obviously terrible. I was like this 11-year-old, wanting to be cool with his guitar and piano skills. And
Mhm.
but I was like, no, drummers are awesome. Like they're tight. Like that's the that's the that's the one I want to learn next. And I remember being in the band room in sixth grade in my middle school and I see this kid. He's my roommate now. His name is Matt. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal drummer.
Mhm.
Like probably one of the best drummers I know, to be honest. Um, and he was like sitting on the drum set, and I was like, at first I was like, I can probably play drums better than this guy. Turns out, nope. Like this guy's crushing it.
Mhm.
And uh, basically, like we have to switch, so like we can all see where we are in like the band. Who's going to be like first chair or second chair, like who's like going to be the lead,
Right.
who's going to play like the bass or the xylophones or whatever, who shines where. And so like the first couple times I'm just kind of like standing in the back because the percussion's always in the back in like an orchestra.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of standing in the back just kind of watching and listening along, and I'm kind of like, man, I hope I don't get called out. I just kind of want to try and pick it up from other people, and then when I get called out to play, I already like will know. And then the band director is like, hey, get on the snare, and like points to me and like you play, and I'm like, oh shoot. So I'm like in middle school, right? I'm like, super insecure, but I'm just here in the middle of the band. I'm standing there, and then he gets his conducting baton out and he starts like to conduct, and I'm not playing anything. Um, I'm just, I have sheet music in front of me. I'm like, I don't know how to read
You know
this.
how to read it. Yeah.
No, like, I have these two sticks in my hand that I don't know what to do with. And, and then so he just stops like in the middle and he's like, why aren't you playing? And I was just like, I don't know how to play this. I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember just feeling so embarrassed because everyone just turned to me and looked at me. And I was just like, oh shoot, like this is like the worst. You know that feeling of like you're in your underwear and then
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just
In front of the
everyone's
whole
staring at you,
class.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. I just felt completely naked. And so he actually came up and it's awesome. He like broke down like this is a quarter note,
Hmm.
four beats in one measure, and each quarter note is a beat. And he was like, here it says out like left and right, so you just follow this pattern, and if it like splits like this, and that means you play it twice in a beat, and that's the eighth note. And
Hmm.
um, and what was really cool too is like Matt would come over and like help me out and show me how to play these like different rudiments and different styles of playing.
Hmm.
And so from there, it was like it wasn't as embarrassing like as I thought it was going to be to like be called out. It was like, oh, like he did have to stop everything to like teach me like the very basics. But I guess that's what I was like, really looking for, when I
Right.
do all these things is like someone to, I guess, teach me, show me the ropes, and like that way I can just get the first idea, learn it, and just, and then from there, once I get it, I'll run with it.
Well, that's what's interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of what you're doing is because it sounds like you're mostly self-taught. Like
Yeah.
you're someone who's like, you're taking kind of the basics, and then you're going off and finding
Hmm.
all these other things. And like you said, sounds like the way your mind works probably helps you, right? Like, right, to like explore and find all those avenues to take,
Yeah.
maybe it's a core melody or a tone or something, and kind of
Hmm.
flesh it out in all the different ways you can.
Sure, and that's a very interesting like idea of being self-taught, because I feel like in the beginning it was like, yeah, I'm self-taught, and kind of like an ego trip, like, oh, I taught myself how to do this. And then you kind of get to the world of like real musicians who like
Hmm.
study this, like even some of the people that I, you know, were in band with, like they took lessons, like took classical lessons, and they're like some of them went off to like, Berkeley or whatever. It's like, wow, like
Hmm.
they know music on another level.
Yeah.
And there's kind of like this taboo, like in terms of in that community, like, oh, if you're self-taught, it's like, okay, like, because music is like, yeah, you can, it's a language, you can just feel it, and everyone can kind of understand it. But like, there's a certain level of like when you play it and you're creating it, that
Right.
there's like a theory behind it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and so there was a lot of in the beginning, I was just completely self-taught and just noodling around and trying to just figure this out. Like, and I think a lot of it too in my like in general life, right? I'm just trying to figure it out on my own.
Hmm.
But then it was like pretty much just in the past couple like I don't know, 5 years or so, 4 years, where I was like, I was seeking out like really true, like either mentors or leadership or people to teach me more than I knew, because I couldn't get past this certain plateau of what self-taught can teach you.
Right. Right.
So I would go to like a guitar teacher, and the best thing, and I paid for that. And the best thing about that was like, man, I'm like this, whatever, 25, 26-year-old, and like, I have to go to a guitar teacher now. And that's like, that was kind of the idea in a sense. I'm like, man, like I should have been doing this. Like this
Mm.
idea that like you should have been this good already at
Mm.
25, 26, kind of ridiculous, right? Like you have, hopefully your whole life ahead of you to learn and grow and become better at what you do. And we think that now in this early quarter stage or whatever, we have to have it all figured out. So
Right. Right.
there's a moment in me just like, you know what, I need to go seek like help in a sense. And so I went to this guitar teacher. His name is Morok, and he was awesome. Like he's a phenomenal guitarist. And I would like play, I would play, he was just like, he would play something for me. So I'd play. And, one of the toughest things about like, especially guitar or, really an instrument like piano too, is like having finger strength, like to be
Hmm.
able to press down on the strings and hold it there.
Right.
And that's, I think, where some of like early guitarists, when they take guitar lessons, like they kind of quit because it's so hard for them to press these and then move the shapes around on the guitar neck in a way where you know where you're going and you play something nice. So for me, I like, because I'd been practicing for 10 years or so, at least on the finger strength part, maybe not so much on the theory. I had all of these like kind of like technical skills already down.
You had
And
the
so he was basically,
calluses already.
exactly. And he was just basically like, you have all of these, like, you have this already, you have this already. You like, this chord, this part of theory, but what you don't have is this connection to this part and this connection to this part. And when he told me those connections, it
Hmm.
just like blew open my mind of like, oh my God, like this is what this is. Like, this is how to play the guitar. Like,
Right.
and I'm not like a guitar, like, professional by any means, but like I see a guitar and I just see it differently than I used to when I was a kid.
Hmm.
going up and playing it, or even drums, learning from Matt and my teacher. And it's like, going into those places like Sync Academy, like I said, like really putting yourself in situations where you can learn from others was such an incredible help that like exponentially made me grow so fast. It's just like in the past 4 or 5 years versus just like 10 plus years of just really trying to figure it out yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so many things are coming to mind as you're talking.
Hmm.
One is this idea of allowing yourself to be a beginner again.
Yeah,
And that really resonates with me because I had this whole career,
right.
on Wall Street for a while.
Hmm.
And while I was on Wall Street, I was also doing improv at night. It was this bizarre double life I was leading. But once I made the decision to leave, back to this theme you were touching on about following your passion, and I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave that to the side, um, and pursue my passion. Even though I had been doing improv for 8 years at that point, I said, all right, I want to go and do a full acting conservatory program. I want to get that training to do all those
Wow.
things. 'Cause even though I'd been performing, in New York clubs and stuff,
Hmm.
and had a bunch of performing experience, that kind of theory, that technique, right? There's
Yeah,
something to that, having that base technique to fall back on.
yeah.
It Yeah, it helps you just have confidence. It helps you, understand a scene. It helps you understand whether it's a phrase or whatever it is, just better. And it's so
Yeah,
interesting, all the parallels in music and acting. I think there are a lot.
yeah,
And so this idea of allowing yourself to be a beginner
right.
and always keep learning.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the commenters mentioned, just Miss Icy Ice said,
Oh
"Yes,
yeah.
Miguel, keep learning and always growing." Amen.
Yeah, all of us. Amen, for sure.
And then the other thing about what I find interesting is a bunch of comedians are drummers. So what's funny is,
Hmm.
I'm a drummer as well. I played drums for probably almost 15 years. I played all through grade
What?
school, and then I played in bands in college. Um, I I'm no professional, but I love playing. But uh, there are a bunch of famous comedians who are also drummers. Like Bill Burr famously loves to
Yeah,
play the drums, right?
right.
Um, Dana Carvey loves to play the drums. There's just a bunch and I think it has to do with that rhythm and timing, right? Because a lot
Hmm.
of comedy is that rhythm and timing,
Yeah,
and uh, and I think it helps. Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I think it's like kind of therapeutic for me as well. Like
Hmm.
just banging on things, to be honest.
Yes,
So yeah,
yeah,
no, I just I love the whole process. I love, playing and it's just, yeah, it's my passion. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I got a question for you actually. So
sure.
when you like it seemed like you were also starting in like dramas first. Like you had like Centigrade, you were producer for that.
Hmm.
I think you were in something else with Brian Dole, who plays Nurse Cal, 27 Dimensions,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, all that stuff on your IMDb page. Like, what made you transition from that realm? Because it seemed like you were doing pretty well. Um,
Well, it's funny. I was always kind of doing both,
hmm.
but it's interesting. So there's not actually a whole lot of film comedy that's happening outside of Judd Apatow, and
Mm,
it's actually quite hard to get
hmm.
an independent comedy done,
Yeah,
and finance. So there's a lot of horror genre, indie films, suspense. There's a lot of
right.
character driven dramas and stuff. Um, and so on the film side, the that's what was available to me as an actor.
Hmm.
Um, but I always was making comedy myself. So I was always making short films with, like, for example, Brian. Brian
Right,
Dole was also in, yeah, as you said, plays Nurse Cal in UpCode,
right.
and so building that experience of making short films, making comedy short films, was really what helped me have the confidence to try and put together like a full, series or pilot
Hmm.
for this. And so that was important. And then also, like I said, I had done improv and sketch comedy for for years
Yeah.
in New York, and so that was a lot of my training.
Yeah.
I was able to take that love of comedy and then put it on stage, and
Right.
and train with people, other improvisers and folks who are all into comedy, and learn from them, just like you said, and
Yeah.
learning from others, um, and then the process of writing. I learned for sketch when I was doing sketch comedy
Hmm.
was out of improvising. So it's really, and I'm curious if there's any parallels that you see in music to this, but
Hmm.
for us, if we were writing a sketch, the sketch would always come from improv. So you might do, I don't know, 20, improv, improvs, right? And
Yeah.
maybe one or two are actually really good,
Hmm.
right? So you take those one or two that you think, okay, that's a really good premise, and you write off of that, right? And
Right.
then you write a script, you take the script, you read
Yeah.
it, but then you improvise off that script,
Yeah.
and then you rewrite it. And you do that over and over and over until it feels like, oh, this is flowing. This is now feels natural. It feels right. It feels like the
Right.
characters are real. It starts to kind of come alive if you do that over and over again.
Yeah. And
So
so
that
that's how UpCode started too, right?
exactly,
Essentially. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
Um,
Um,
and I also like with your interview with Greg Fortier, your co-writer, you
mhm.
said that like writing for comedy is actually probably one of the hardest things to write for, even harder than drama. So
Yeah.
with all that, like how do you overcome like the writer's block in your head when you face that?
No, that's a great question. I think you touched on it before. I think it's allowing yourself to step away and
Mm,
know that sometimes you can't force inspiration, right?
yeah.
You have to know when it's time to write.
Hmm.
It's like,
I
I
got you.
mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you have a deadline, you just have to push, and you have to try
Yeah.
lots of different things and trial and error, and you have to just power through. But if
Hmm.
you have the space and you have the time, step away,
Yeah.
and let, just like you said, let inspiration come. And then I think also working with other people that you really
Hmm.
love working with,
Yeah.
and who you respect and are talented and
Hmm.
you vibe with, throwing that ball back and forth,
Right.
of like, oh, I don't know if this even works. And sometimes you just throw out a word, and somebody's like, oh,
Right.
I know something about that, or I heard a story about that.
Right.
And then you
Yeah.
just kind of, you throw it back and forth,
You know,
and,
I,
yeah. And
yeah, no,
sometimes what you end up with is nothing like where you started, right?
yeah, exactly. 100%. I mean, there's a similarity definitely in music with that, where it's like you start with an idea and I'm like, okay, I think this is where it's gonna go. And then you just kind of keep playing with it. And I don't know, at a certain point, you just kind of let the flow go, right? And then it'll take you somewhere where you're like, oh, wow, I didn't think that I was going to be doing this, but it's even better than what you originally planned. And so it's interesting that I think like when you allow like space and room for inspiration and you're not so like rigid, this is how things are going to be and they have to be, it makes everything better. And I think in the same way that you're saying, like, tossing the ball back and forth between people, um, it's really like everything really is truly like a people business first and foremost. And I think something in that interview that you had said also with Greg was something like, at a certain point, like you guys are going back and forth, you guys are both writing, what's funny to him isn't funny to you, what's funny to you isn't funny to him. And you kind of have to give it to the people and have them decide.
Yeah, that's right.
So can you touch more on that? Like,
Yeah, well, it's back to this idea of you can sit in a room and write a script, and kind of work through those words that end up on the page.
mhm,
But until you have an actor who's playing that part say the word out loud, you never
yeah,
really know if it's going to work. It's like
yeah,
you can sometimes you think you have the best line ever, and they say the line out loud, and you realize, oh, that's flat. Like that just doesn't work. It's
yeah,
just that, right? And then other times it's like, as soon as they, even before anybody laughs in the room, like as soon as they say the line, the
yeah,
chemistry in the room changes.
hmm,
Just like everything in the room. You're like, oh no, you just know immediately. No, that's it. Like there's something about it.
it's very
Once,
natural,
yeah,
effortless.
right. Once that line leaves their lips, it just you just know if it
Yeah,
works or not. But if
yeah,
you never really know until it's off the page, right?
right, right. Awesome.
But yeah. And I'm imagining it's it's got to be similar in music. I mean, I guess you're right? You're kind of sitting there with it. You described kind of playing around on the ukulele, right, for the theme song, and
Mm-hmm.
right, and kind of you're noodling around on it, and then all of a sudden
Yep.
you kind of stumble on it, and you try a couple things,
Right.
and there's something about it when you hear it, right? You
Yeah.
kind of know.
Yeah. That honestly, that's really what it was. When I played that first chord, I think it's like E minor chord or whatever. I just like,
I thought it
um,
was E minor. I was going to say E minor. I have no
okay,
idea.
yeah.
I have no
No.
idea. I'm just kidding. I had no idea.
But I don't, there's something about the feel of it where it was like, so the first one, right, was like this happy kind of go lucky, like it could be ironic in this, but then this one kind of had this like Wild West feel to it with
Yes.
like the
Yeah.
whip snaps and then the like,
Right.
the little like runs, or like the little stinger at the end where I just let my fingers strum. It just felt kind of like, okay, now here's the story. You know how like the Wild West, there's like the whistling, it's very just open and kind of just like gives room for the story to unfold. And I was
Right.
like, you know what, this show could kind of be like this weird Wild West, but not, old like that, like very like in
Right.
modern times type of thing of like the
Right.
Wild West of like the medical industry and how things are. But using instead of using like the like whistling stuff, it was just like, okay, let's use, Jerry wanted the ukulele, let's try out the ukulele, and it was like just on point, and yeah.
It's funny.
But
I don't even remember saying
asking for
ukulele
the
to
ukulele,
you.
no,
It's
I,
so
I was
funny.
listening. You were telling me what you wanted. I wrote down, your notes,
No,
and I
I
was like,
believe
okay,
you.
this
I
like
believe you. I'm just, it's,
that's funny.
I, yeah, yeah, it's just so, yeah, that's so funny.
you know but at the same time with that, like, that inspiration and letting it hit you too, is I like, will obviously take revisions very seriously, and like if you want something done or changed, like no problem. I think that was a difference too with trying to be like an artist and a musician. It was harder because it was like, this is my self-expression, this is what I want to do, and
Hmm.
then you didn't really leave room for people to tell you otherwise, because no, I do it because this is, I meant to do it this way.
Mm.
And that's probably the biggest pitfall in probably any industry, but definitely in music and probably even film and TV. When you're just so rigid, you won't allow for change to happen. No one will want to work with you. So
Right.
like, you had sent me a couple of revisions, like, oh, we like this, but can you do it this way, or like change this part out? And I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Because ultimately the goal is to make the production better, to make, what you're creating. It's not for me to, oh, this is the best thing I've ever written in my life. You know what I mean? But it's not like that. It's to make the entire production better as a whole, and for us all together to shine. And I actually learned a couple of those things, um, through, I work with this production music library right now, and they're phenomenal. They're called Methodic Doubt Music, based in LA
Hmm.
and Vancouver, and they basically specialize in production music, for film, TV, sound design, for trailers and stuff like that. And they're like so phenomenal. They've just worked with me, and like I would send them music, and sometimes they're not even entirely ready, but they have a music coordinator, and they'll send me back revisions and give me like tips. And Sync Academy did the same thing too. Like there's like a section where you could send music, upload it, and get people to give you feedback on it.
Mm.
So
Cool.
I think it's really like that blend of having like your inspiration, this is it, you got it, and
Hmm.
then at the same time being open to like what a lot of people have to say about it. Because like you said, like give it to the people, and they'll tell you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
so important. We did get a question from the audience, which is, this is from Ms. Icy Ice again. What's the most
Mm.
helpful advice you've ever received that has really stuck with you?
What's the
And
most helpful advice that I've ever received that's
and
really stuck
maybe you
with me?
just gave it. I don't know.
Um, you know what? I can't think of like an exact one right now, but I think part of like right now the thing that comes to my head, which I'm sure somebody's told me before, is just kind of like just relax, just have fun with it. Don't try to push it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, really leave room, leave space for the chaos, the uncertainty of life to happen, and roll with that, and use it in a way that, um, you can use it to push whatever production that you're a part of forward, or whatever it is that you're doing. Um, yeah, just
Yeah.
roll with those punches.
Well,
But
yeah. I mean, that's great advice. And boy, talk about uh, more parallels to acting.
yeah.
Again, it's like the best acting I've ever done in my life is when I'm relaxed and enjoying it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you can tell when an actor, even if they're playing a role that's like they're being evil or they're having really emotional time, if they're enjoying it, you always kind of have to really enjoy it. And
Hmm.
it's such a great reminder. It's like we all get hung up on having to be perfect and great and like
Right.
precise and like man, we do ourselves a service when we just remember to relax and enjoy it. So that's a great point.
Yeah, I noticed that you also have like on your Instagram, you have these like little shorts, which I found like a few of them for sure hilarious. Like one with the David Bowie, where it's like doom doom butter, doom butter, and you're kind of mouthing it, and you look so calm, and then little words of like mortgage to pay, I'm leaving my corporate job, I got a kid on the way, like pop up. It's like, whoa, this is kind of stressful. And then right when the under pressure comes on, you just look to the screen and you're just like face contorted and you're like under pressure, like you're just in pain. And like I'm sure some of that pain was probably very real, which probably made it so funny. I think
Yeah.
there was another one. I forgot what the headline said, but it was like, about to leave my corporate job or something, and you have under pressure, and then it's Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, and then you just scream, "Mama!" like off the top of your lungs. I showed that to Megan, dude. We laughed so hard because it's just one, it's unexpected, but I don't know, like that's like some true commitment from you, I'm sure, but I'm sure that some of that is real, like that pain and that frustration and that pressure. So, what are some ways that you find are best helpful for you to deal with that like immense pressure in your life?
Oh, now that's a it's a great question and a constant struggle. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't have it figured out. I have to say, I'll say that right at top. But no, it's all the things that we probably hear and read about. Like
Mm,
for me, I'm naturally a kind of anxious guy, and so I have to be like,
me too.
I have to, I have to be exercising a lot. I have to meditate. I have to
Oh
be
yeah.
pretty busy. I have to like, I have to eat right. Like I can't drink too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to do all the things
Yep.
to just kind of stay on track.
Man, I know what you mean.
And it's self care and it's
Yeah.
doing all those things, and then also like I have a 4-year-old, and so there's something to the perspective, right, of a
Mm,
4-year-old who, he just grounds you. It's just like
I bet.
really at a basic level, like he just wants to play Legos, like
Yeah.
that's all he wants to do. And it's just like
Yeah.
for him, it's the most important thing in the world. And,
Wow.
as his dad, it's like, you know what? Maybe it is the most important thing in the world. It's
Hmm.
just play the Legos, and
Man, I love that. Yeah,
uh,
my sister just had a preemie baby. Shout out to my sister,
yeah.
little Bailey, and like we've seen her grow. Like she was literally like the size of this hand. You know what I mean? Like when she was
Wow.
first born, crazy, like alien looking thing. And
Hmm.
then now she's like the cutest little happy baby. I bought her this dress from Hawaii, and I remember like bringing it to her, and she put it on her, and like she was just dancing around the room, laughing and smiling. And I was like, dude, it's the cutest thing. I'll like send you photos or something. Show you
Yeah.
photos
Yeah.
later because it's like
Please. Yeah.
beautiful. But you like see that and you're like, oh yeah, life's not so bad. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with you mentioned advancements for rural kids, right?
Yeah.
And you're a co-founder with Ayesha on that, the
Yeah.
nonprofit.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you like? I mean, like, okay, so you're writing you're writing scripts for probably one of the hardest genres. You're on set as a producer, actor, doing a lot of stuff. You have to facilitate this somehow with the nonprofit and your philanthropic work and everything, and then you also have a kid. Like,
Right. Right.
how do you like effectively manage your time so you can balance all that? And
Yeah, that's a great question. I I mean, it's it's not a yeah. I remember James Corden got this question, and it resonated to me. It was like because he was
mm,
at the time he was launching the new show, and he was also in a film, and he was pulled in to have I think host one of the big award shows. Anyway, so somebody asked him that, and his
mm,
answer was I think a really good one, and it's something I strive to do, and I'm not always good at. But he's like, if you're just present with everything you're doing in that moment
mm,
and you enjoy it
mm,
and you genuinely
wow,
enjoy it, like
yeah,
that's a big help. Like obviously I love being with my son, and so it's easy
mm,
to be present with him in that moment. I love being on set. I love writing. I love creating. So it's
Yeah.
easy to be present in that moment. And then also I'm passionate about, the work
Mm,
that Ayesh and I are doing with ARC. She runs it, to be very clear. I'm a helper to her, and try not
mm-hmm.
to get in the way, but
Right?
honestly, but it is something that I connected to, something I feel very deeply about, and I'm
Yeah.
proud to be a part of. So
Right.
it's easy to be present, when I'm involved with that. It's honestly, it's the
Mm.
other stuff that's hardest, right? Because we all,
Oh
even
yeah.
those things, right? It's those things that you really like to do, and then there's life, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
creeps in, and I think the challenge for me is not so much being present in those things that I love. It's the other stuff, the other responsibilities of,
Man, I'm
keeping
with you.
yeah, keeping the lights on here, and making sure we've got all the, the logistics of all the stuff that it takes to live life. That's
Yeah.
that's I think, yeah, I think that's this thing I'm still trying to
Mm.
figure out. It's like, how do I do
Me
that
too.
better? And right,
Mm.
how do I do that better so that I can really be even more present with the stuff you really love?
Yeah.
So if you
Well,
have
I
any
mean,
tips, I'm all ears.
man, well, I mean, even like leaving that, corporate job, being, Wall Street exec, and now you're doing this, and it's like, I bet that's even more like, more pressure. But, honestly, I'm sure that like having Ayesha like
Yeah.
have your back, because she like paid for your, right? Like she paid for your first improv classes, like as a gift or something.
She gave me as a gift back in, whatever, now probably 15 years ago now, my
Wow.
very first improv lesson as a Valentine's Day gift. We were dating at the time, not even married, and
Wow.
I'd been just, probably being really annoying, talking about what a frustrated performer I was, and I miss performing. I always want to do it, and complaining and not doing anything about it. And that's the great
Mm,
thing about
yeah.
Ayesha, is like, she's so great at being like, yeah, all right, you can either complain about it or you can actually do something. So here, I'm just gonna, shut
Ooh,
up. Here it is.
just
Go
call
do
you
it.
out.
And
Wow.
she was absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's a good partner.
Having a great woman behind your back, right? Megan's the same way, dude. Honestly, I think she makes my like life better in pretty much every way. Like
Yeah.
we like we started doing Little Nugget comics.
Yes, which is
And
amazing and
yeah,
awesome.
thank you. Yeah,
Everyone
like
check out Little Nuggets. It's hilarious and awesome.
I don't know how she does it, to be honest. Like, okay, I can. Here's like I think that's what I realized. Like, I'm a great like facilitator. Like, I'm a good person. Like, if you give me a project or like a draft or like an assignment, it's like, oh, I can go do that. But
Mhm.
she comes up with ideas so quick. Like, that's why I probably couldn't be like an artist, like writing everything off the top of my head. Like, I don't know if it's like an Ed Sheeran or something, but like I don't know. Like even like I think yesterday we had to do a comic for today, so we just released that comic this morning,
Uh,
and that wasn't written yesterday. And
wow, wow.
like and she just came up with that idea, and then some of these comics get like thousands of likes just off the top of
Yeah,
her, you know what I mean? And it's like, dude, how do you like how do you come up with this stuff? Like, I know you're
so,
drawing from real life, but
yeah. And so,
she's
how
she's
does that work?
amazing.
Who's the artist? Who's the,
Hmm.
like, the writer? How do those, how do those get made?
Yeah. So she's the writer.
Mhm.
I'm the illustrator.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we kind of started off, and it was very clear. And I think part of the reason why we did this, because in the midst of the pandemic, we started in January 2020, and pretty
Wow.
much the same time that we connected and I met with
Mhm.
Ayesha, we were kind of beginning the phases of, we kind of wanted to do, I don't know how we actually came up with like wanting to do nuggets, but really, part of the story of that is that like when I met her at this like football game, and she was like working in a stand, and I was just kind of there, and it was very loud, and we met and we were talking, and she introduced herself. Because it was so loud, I thought like she said that her name was Nugget instead of Megan, and so I was like, my name's Nugget, and I was like, that's the coolest name for anyone. Like, if your name's really Nugget, like that's awesome. Um, but no, she's like, no, it's Megan. But then it was kind of like now my nickname for her. Like, she's like my
Right.
little nugget.
Right.
And I think when we are talking about like, oh, she's really into like comics. Like, she loves like the little web series comics. I'm more into like Marvel, DC comics and stuff like that. But um, she was like into like little Instagram web comics that like do really well. And she's like, I bet we could do this, because she knew that I like to draw and paint and do like that kind of stuff. And we were talking about these ideas. So when we sat down and we're like, okay, what we like kind of had the meeting of like, what do we want to do? How do we want to do it?
Mhm.
And I think just the idea of like two little nuggets like was just immediately like that's what we should do. Like the
Yeah.
story of these two nuggets, like they could have face, hey, what's up?
Speaking of nuggets,
Yeah, there he is.
hey, buddy.
What's up?
I need to tell you something.
You tell
Uh-oh.
me something, you're at Pops.
What do you got to tell me?
There is nothing that you can do. Ha! Trick you! It's time to eat!
Oh, it's time
Oh,
to
it's time to eat.
eat.
Yeah,
All right,
next
buddy.
time I'm taking your Pops from you.
um,
But I appreciate it.
And
Yeah,
for
right.
real.
so
I'm not lying.
I'm going to be in a second,
Nice,
big guy,
buddy.
okay? All
No,
right.
you're not.
This is Miguel. This
Yeah,
is
hey.
Tito Miguel.
Hey, how's it going?
What in the world?
Yeah.
All right, go inside and I'll be right out, okay?
Wow.
Whoa! Sorry, Miguel.
He's adorable.
Speaking of little nuggets.
Is
So
that
anyway, so you were
is it
saying,
Rowan
sorry,
or Rowan? How do you
Rowan, yeah.
Rowan? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, no, we were what do you say? So we were like sitting like in the room just talking, like bouncing ideas, like what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do it? And this like idea of just like because so much was happening, right? The fires like too as well, like
Right.
that were happening, just so much bad stuff, like COVID was like coming up and it was just like how do we wanna like the riots even like last year, like,
Right.
there was just so much negativity like in the
Yeah, it was
world that
brutal.
like
The year was the worst year ever. Yeah.
worst year ever, and we were just like I'm so sick of like we were just sick of it. Like I didn't want to watch it. Megan would like watch some of these like news reports and just like cry and stuff, and I was like
Right.
I didn't want to think about it, right? So what we like really set out to do with Little Nug Comics was we came up with the phrase celebrate or spreading joy by celebrating the little moments in life. And
Yeah.
that just like stuck.
Yeah.
And it just made it so crisp and clear. Like this is the goal, no matter what, above all else, we're going to spread joy. We're going to celebrate the little moments in life. And so there's no like agenda with Little Nugget Comics. It's just like, there's no storyline. There's no arc really. It's just slice of life moments between two little nuggets and their relationship with, not only each other, but the world around them. So even in the little nugget verse, if you can call it that, I guess, is that there's different characters sprinkled throughout, and all of them, which I really love, actually, and I'm glad I did this. Like, obviously the nuggets are inspired by me and her, but all of those characters are inspired by people around us as well and our friends. And whether or not that they're actually that type of person, it's just
Right.
like, I like the fact that I can bring in a friend in this world and their like shape and face and what they do and how they are like is kind of like this character. And I'm kind of like creating a world of nuggets, which is
Yeah. That's
never
awesome.
thought I'd ever be doing. And I actually told Megan, like, if I wasn't with you, I would never do this. But how amazing that we did. Like now it's like 17, almost 18,000 followers on Instagram.
It's amazing. It's so
And
cool. So cool
but
and so fun.
yeah,
And
it was
go ahead,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, it was a lot of hard work. We were writing. She was writing pretty much every day, writing for weeks or months at a time. I think the most that we had was like a month of comics backlogged, and that we were
Wow.
ready to pull out. And me, it was literally drawing like 2-3 comics pretty much every day.
Wow.
Yeah, and then at a certain point, it kind of like I'd like fall behind or whatever, and I was just doing a comic every day. And I still do comics, but it's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. Well, and I love the idea of like you kind of have almost like a mission statement, right? For your and it's great to have those because it's like it keeps you whenever you kind of like you're unsure, right? You kind of like, okay, what's our mission here, right? And what do we want to do? And it can kind of bring you back to back to your purpose, which is great.
Yeah, there's this book. Shoot, I forgot the name of the guy. Maybe you'll know, but he wrote this book, and it's this idea that you start with why first. The name always like blanks out on me, but he's a great motivational speaker. Started a bunch of businesses, and essentially like it's a bunch of people can say like, here's what we do, here's how we do it. But the best companies in the world and the best people in the world can say why they do things, and that's really what people buy into, like the why. Why do you do what you do? Because everybody else can do this and do all that, but like
So what's amazing
Yeah.
about, which I don't mean to interrupt you, but I
No,
think
go
it's
for it. Yeah.
Megan just chimed in with the
Oh,
name of
yep.
the guy, Simon
Yep.
Sinek. So
That's it. Yep. Thanks, Megan. See, it's on my back.
I love it. I love it. Proving the point in real
Right.
time. It's
Exactly.
amazing. It's
There you
amazing.
go.
Oh man, Miguel, thank you so
Well,
much
yeah.
for doing this, man. I
Thank
can't believe it's
you.
been an hour already. We could
I
chat the
know.
whole day away.
I
But
bet we could.
yeah, but hopefully we'll do it again. Thank you again for your
Yeah.
artistic contribution to UpCode. Everyone out there, please check out Little Nuggets comics on Instagram. It's so funny, it's so fun, and it's also has a heart, which is all I love. It's like those two things together is I think is magic. So
Yeah.
please definitely check that out.
Awesome.
And thank you, man. Thanks for
Dude.
being a great collaborator.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I know you took a chance, on me. Obviously, like I was like a nobody, you just needed something. But like the guy with no credits, let's give him this shot. And so thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for having me on here, be able to share my story, man.
My pleasure,
Um,
man.
and yeah, dude, I appreciate hopefully we can meet like actually meet
That would
sometime
be
in the
great.
future, meet the family. But say hi
Yeah,
to Ayesha and Rowan and
I
enjoy
will.
your I guess what is it, dinner now there, I guess, or dinner?
Lunch, yeah,
Lunch?
lunchtime apparently, yeah.
Or yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I will. I'll pass that along. And best to Megan, and thanks again. And we'll talk again.
Yeah, definitely.
All right,
Cool.
brother. Take care.
See you later. Bye. You too.